Hey everyone, it's Izzy Eze,
along with Tembi, and welcome to Somewhat Grown,
a podcast about adulting from two 30-somethings just figuring it out
and embracing the process.
Hey guys, how's everyone doing? We are back.
Hello, what's good? It's summer, kind of.
Put it this way, I walked to the park today and I saw people with their shirts off, like sunbathing, and I was like, I rate it, I respect it. But I think it's because we're so deprived.
Yeah.
You know.
But I get it too. I think this is actually one of the first times where I really actually got it. Like people out in t-shirts, yeah, shorts and everything. And I'm like, I get it. Like you just have to just ride the wave when it comes because you don't know when it will come again.
You have to seek happiness. You know, I'm going on a tangent now, but it's like, so one of my cousins, who lived in Ghana pretty much her whole life. Now, you know, obviously she moved to the UK. Now she's probably made 2 years in the UK. She's like, I understand why the Western world talks about depression, this, depression, the other, depression, that. She's like, I get it. I understand, you know? She's like, at least, you know, when you're in Africa, you have the weather, everyone's happy, you know, but when you're here, everything is sad and dark and cold and depressed.
I can see you saying that as well.
She was like, everything is just depressing, you know? I was like, yeah, that's the truth. But that is not what we're talking about today. We are talking about, what are we talking about? We're talking about failure and we're talking about fear. And I think the reasons why, well, some of the reasons why I was thinking of this episode was because, you know, in our 30s, you could argue that perhaps we're maybe a bit more risk averse compared to our 20s. But also, I think our 20s is kind of like a time where we can try, we are filled with youthful zeal, put it that way. You know, so all of the things that we want to achieve, we believe we can do it. And, you know, we go hard, we don't think of any risks. And, you know, what happens. You know, you either succeed or you might plateau, and then what next? You know what I mean? And I think we're now presented with like a new decade of our life, and we're thinking, okay, am I going to be shaped by this failure, in quote? If so, how? Is that going to make me sink? Is that going to make me swim? Is that going to make me think about revamping my life? You know, so there's a lot of questions that we're thinking about today. But yeah, I don't know, Tim, if you had any thoughts initially and kind of what you think about initially when you hear this topic.
Yeah, I think that whole thing around fear of failure has definitely been coming up for me. It's something that maybe I think I'm maybe been a bit in denial about. And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, oh yeah, this is absolutely the biggest thing that's going on for me right now in terms of things I'm trying to aim for with projects. And I think the more I think about it, the more it just becomes real and like just in my face. And it's something I've actually been thinking about a bit earlier towards the start of the year. I wrote on my Substack about what does it mean to fail better, because I was just mentioning to you, and I guess I could share it I don't know, at some point maybe in today's topic, a poem that I came across that really spoke to me around I guess approaching things with a level of confidence and just chest that you don't fear that failure. And the whole sentiment around it is just how nice it must be to move like that.
Absolutely.
But the person who wrote the poem is like saying that as a like, oh, that must be so nice, and like kind of yearning for that. And I think I related to that feeling. But I think you're right. It's like when I feel like when I was younger, you're right, you have those big dreams, but it's also a level of naivety, maybe, about not yet having faced certain disappointments. So you don't have the pain of it, I guess, yet to know to fear it. And that's a bit of a privilege, maybe. But yeah.
Wow. That's so interesting. I feel like, okay, let's reel it back. You know, let's do our word of the day. Let's do our Silly Billy Awards. But I'm already so excited about this topic because I think there's a lot that we can touch on. But first, yeah, for those that maybe are new to the podcast, we do our Silly Billy Awards. I don't actually have one today,
I'm also
Tembi.
thinking right now, like, do I have one?
Okay, fine, we're gonna skip that. But normally on our episodes, we have our random word generator. So we're gonna pick a random word from the internet and then see how we can relate it to our topic today. So yeah, let's go ahead. Right. So the random word for today is is pavement.
Okay.
These things get more and more intriguing.
Okay. No, I've already got something.
Me too, but go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, do you want to go first?
I don't know. Maybe, probably, because it's just off the top of my head, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Recovering perfectionist. um, Pavement. I was just thinking like paving the way. I was thinking about going on a journey, and
Okay.
I feel like that's definitely something that I have done just kind of through my 20s and 30s, especially as it kind of pertains to music and career. I think it's important to be agile and be resilient. And I think
Hmm.
you should be able to almost form new paths for yourself. So if you're going down one path, you're walking down the pavement in this direction, maybe you
Hmm.
actually need to switch direction. Um, Maybe there's something that you aim for that you don't see create that you haven't seen created, and so maybe you have to pave a new path. And yeah, I think those are all kind of initial thoughts that came to mind when I thought about it.
That's really spot on. Yeah, I wasn't thinking that, but yeah, I love that.
Oh, what were you thinking?
Well, there's a DJ in my head. I'm telling you, there's a DJ who lives in my head, and there's always
Okay.
songs just ready to go. So
Okay.
literally, as soon as you said pavement, the first song, what should I give up?
Okay.
Should I just? But also, what a perfect song because it is literally like, should I give up? Or do I keep trying? Do I keep
Mm,
chasing pavements? That's what came in my head. And
mm,
it feels like it is a very apt song for this because it's all about, it captures that whole tension of like having experienced that heartbreak or disappointment. And you don't even know if trying again is going to lead anywhere. And that
mm.
is what comes up when you're facing things that feel like a risk or like you're saying is paving a way in some way. So that's what came in
Hmm.
my head is
I
Chasing
love that.
Pavements by
I
Adele.
love that. Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that we had different kind of answers, and it's just still so perfect. Um, but yeah, okay. So I guess let's start off with a question. A question to you, Tembi. So, which feelings come up for you when you think of the words failure and when you think of the word fear, and
Hmm.
why? Let's just kind of maybe start there and see where we can go.
Oh, that's a good good question. I think when I think of the word failure, what feeling comes up? That's the question.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The feeling for failure is like shame, I want to say.
Mm.
And when I think about fear, yeah, I guess it's fear, but I guess fear, yeah, I actually think both is shame, interestingly.
Mm.
I'd
Mm-hmm.
never thought of that before, but yeah, I think for me the feeling for both feels like shame.
How come?
I think because there's probably a level of, oh, it just feels like therapy. There's
I
probably a
know, right?
level
It's
of
crazy.
wanting some level of approval, I guess, by achieving
Mm.
certain things. And also, I guess I think for me, on a personal level, I always feel like I'm trying to prove something. I'm trying to prove myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that is also another side of the coin of like uh, a level of seeking acceptance or
Mm.
validation.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever I think about failure, or at least for a long time, how I've thought about failure, it's always brought a sense of like, oh, it feels shameful to fail
Mm.
because um, it means I'm, I guess, not a good person or someone who contributes
Mm.
well to
Mm.
the world or my family or whatever the situation is. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's the right way to think about it at
Mm-hmm.
all, but
Mm-hmm.
I think for a long time, that's how I've probably thought about it, maybe even on a subconscious level at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about
Hmm.
you? What
Yeah,
feelings do
I
you
could
associate?
definitely answer that, but I guess I was also just thinking when you were saying failure, so what came up for me is when I think of fear,
Hmm.
it feels very kind of personal. Like I am scared of this particular thing
Hmm.
because of how it makes me feel, for instance, or
Hmm.
just what comes up. But when when you say the word failure, it can possibly have a lot more weight to it because you're thinking about what other people, how other people
Hmm.
perceive you.
Hmm.
Um, and I think, yeah, that could definitely weigh somebody down for sure. It's one thing dealing with what you perceive as failure, but if you feel as though other people see you as a failure, then that actually has a weightier kind of impact.
I think
Um,
it does. I think it does.
yeah.
And I think maybe that's why I kind of almost tie it in with the shame because yeah, I think
Hmm.
when I think about it personally with the fear,
Mm.
maybe the feeling would maybe just be more like vulnerability or lack of control.
Right.
That's
Right.
yeah, on a personal level, I think that's what I feel. But then I think as much as I might feel vulnerable, I actually think the only time that seems to matter is if outside people are involved. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
vulnerability isn't, I mean, I don't know. How vulnerable is vulnerable when it's not airing it out to others? Do you know what I mean?
When it's not a risk, right?
Yeah.
Mm. Mm. Hmm.
What,
No, no,
what,
sorry. I feel like you had more thoughts. I'm not about to interrupt that. So, yeah.
well,
Yeah.
no, no, I want to know what feelings you associate with it.
Yeah. Okay, so what feelings do I associate with fear? When I hear fear, I hear coward. I don't know why that's funny, but that feels so Nigerian. It's crack me up
Why does it feel
because
Nigerian?
it feels Nigerian because I don't fear anything. Nah, what will I fear? You know what I mean? Like how can I fear something? And so I think for me it's like if I'm fearful of something, I almost pretend that I'm not. And I don't know if that's always healthy, you know, because I
Mm,
think vulnerability is important. And I think vulnerability helps with connectivity, connecting with another person,
mhm,
You don't want to seem like you're not human.
mm,
Um, and actually it's not just that, it's actually you can relate with somebody else and you won't feel as alone.
mhm,
And in other respects, yeah, I see fear as almost like an opportunity to be courageous.
mm,
That book, like Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway type of thing. It's like
mhm,
that's kind of a lot of the times kind of what comes up for me is like, okay, I'm fearful, but I'm going to try my hardest to be courageous in this moment, even though I'm scared,
mhm, mhm,
you know? So yeah, two sides of the coin, I guess.
mhm,
And when I hear failure, oh, it's just so heavy. It feels really, really heavy. Very, very heavy. And maybe similar to you in that I I just never ever wanted. I don't want to fail in general, right? I guess apart until today, until this episode kind of came up, and I've been thinking about what failure means to me. I did not want to fail at all. And so for me, that kind of meant only doing things that I was good at,
mhm,
only doing things that I already had the talent in and just excelling in that area, not really trying enough new things because it means that I might just fail and be terrible at
mhm,
something. And again, I think that does relate to how other people see me. It's like, I don't want to project myself out here on social media doing this thing and then fail, in quote,
mhm,
because everyone's going to think I'm pathetic, or people are not going to think I'm as cool as I think I am or whatever, or as cool as I want to be.
mhm,
Um, it's again that Nigerian thing of like showing no weakness.
mhm,
Um, but recently, I guess within the last kind of couple of weeks and months, especially just after kind of listening to like podcast episodes and just really just trying to understand this topic of failure, I've kind of really come to terms with like failure is important. you know, for me, I think failure is important. And I want to learn how to fail faster. Um, I don't know. In my opinion, I feel like there are a lot more lessons that can be learned from failing
Mm,
than succeeding all the time,
mm-hmm,
you know? But then why are we so hesitant to fail
mm-hmm,
if that is the case, if we do believe that to be true?
mm,
Do you know what I mean?
mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
I think, like what you're saying as well about, yeah, you don't want to show that side. A lot of people, I think, can relate to that. I can relate to that, not wanting to show that side because, and
Mm,
by that I mean, yeah, like failing, is because there's so many negative judgments that people tend to place
mm,
on that. But yeah, I think that flipping it means kind of confronting a little bit our egos because so much of that
yes.
drive to not want to fail or
Mm,
appear pathetic or whatever
mm,
is ego. And
yep.
um, let's talk about ego death because,
Honestly.
yeah,
Gosh.
um, as you were speaking, I was curious. You started touching on like developing a new idea and sense of what it means to fail.
Mm.
But I guess like previously or for the most part, like how has your experience of like a failure been and what was the result of that failure for you?
I think that I guess what comes to mind immediately is when I graduated from uni. Um, and I I guess I really just wanted to be a creative. I still really want to be a creative. I am a creative, right? But when I graduated, I guess I just thought, yeah, everything that I did in this small university bubble, I'm going to do out in the wider world, and everything's going to go perfectly. Being that, I was a president of the sort of Christian Performing Arts Society, and I just loved kind of connecting people, bringing people together, allowing them to kind of perform their different gifts, whether it be singing, poetry, whatever it was. And I was like, yeah, I just want to hold poetry events outside of this space.
Mm,
Um, you know, I guess two events down the road, I think that was probably my first quarter life crisis,
mm,
which ended up in me going to therapy. And I felt that I failed mainly because it was just so hard to balance life, really. Just like adulting was new. It was very new to me. Um so whereas, when you're at uni, it's just like you're worried about your degree and whatever extracurricular thing you have. It's just two things, even
mm,
though those two things are big, it was only two.
mm,
But when you're an adult, it's everything else plus your dreams, Actually, how are you going to make money? Which is
yeah.
probably the biggest thing. So I did feel like I failed in that sense because I wasn't making profit from what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And how did that feel? Yeah, it just made me feel um like I didn't know where I was going. I felt quite aimless, if that
Mm-hmm.
directionless. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um and yeah, I think I just needed to kind of dissect that with a therapist just to kind of understand what it is at its heart, that is
Mm-hmm.
going on for me. What did I learn from that? Definitely that was probably the first time where I really saw the depths of what perfectionism can actually do to you
Mm-hmm.
negatively. Perfectionism and burnout, I mean, perfectionism led to burnout. And also just kind of juggling so many things at once. I think I'm definitely somebody that is interested in so many different things and always wants to put 100% in all of those things.
Yeah.
So it's just not gonna work. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, what I learned from that basically is that um, there's a lot of unlearning that you need to do around what it means to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I need to also give myself more permission to let certain things go,
Mm-hmm.
and to try new things, but not spread myself so thin.
Mm-hmm.
And just practically, I learned a lot of tools about how to manage my mental health, which,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if I had to go through that failure to learn that, then I'd do it again. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that's kind of one thing I would think of. Yeah. What about you? Has there been an experience where you felt you failed?
Yeah,
And if so, what did you gain? What did you learn from it, I guess?
yeah, definitely. So many. But I think I'll share one which I really hope doesn't seem like it's not a genuine one because it is, and you know that. Because yeah, I was crying. But
Mm,
I would say after finishing my master's, I was really, really determined. And again, this is coming from a very deep-rooted need to prove myself.
mm,
I was really determined to not only, graduate and finish my course, but to get a distinction. And
mm.
I was 2 marks off for distinction, and
Oof.
it broke me a little bit.
Oh.
And I remember I arranged a meeting with like the academic advisor and the course
Mm,
like administrator, being like, you know how hard I worked for this, like can it be
mm,
remarked? And like I could see the look on their faces
mm,
of it was just like a look of almost like I know where you've been, where you are. I've been where you are. Actually,
mm,
one of the supervisors said that she was like, I know this feels like a lot right now, but I promise you, like it's not like not that she's
mm,
minimizing my experience. There was still like if you really want to contest it, like you
mm.
can, but it is so marginal and also like it would they could just tell like I was just not okay.
Yeah. Oh.
And it was just one of those where I think I was yeah, I look back on it now and I'm like, girl, you got into University of Oxford in the first place on a master's and you
Mm.
graduated. Like,
Okay.
and also the thing that you got the 2 marks of a distinction on was me trying something new. And I was like, I remember
Mm,
there was a part of me that was like, oh, maybe I should have been strategic, like, and
mm,
thought like a little bit like maybe some of the others who did something that they've done before so that I can make sure I
mm-hmm,
guarantee that first class. And,
mm-hmm,
and then I had to like remind myself actually, like, before I even started this, what did I want to do? I wanted to do this master's not because I wanted to say I've got a distinction. I did this master's because I wanted to
mm.
learn and these skills, and now I have that, and now I'm
Wow.
still working and developing and growing them. And
Wow.
I think it was definitely like a sobering moment of being like, check yourself because the thing that
Mm,
was being like, oh, I should have got a distinction or like that was definitely an ego thing to be like, it was all about being able to say I did that and show putting it on my LinkedIn or my Instagram or whatever. But
mm-hmm.
really and truly, did it matter in terms of the craft that I was trying to develop? No, did
No.
not matter, did not make any difference about the opportunities I've since had. That's
Mm,
played no part in it in terms of like that 2 mark difference. And
mm,
it was a really big moment of learning for me because first it was like I really was like out here like I was really disappointed by it, and I think I
mm,
just lost perspective on it.
mm-hmm,
And I
mm-hmm,
think that was one lesson. It was like when you fixate on such a specific outcome and a
mm-hmm,
specific end goal, you lose
mm,
perspective. And I think I did a little bit in that moment. And I think since
mm,
then, one of the most, I would say there was a gift on the other side of
mm,
that painful lesson, which is it's taught me to not put so much weight on the end result anymore.
absolutely.
And when I think about my goals now and the things I'm working towards, I genuinely center it on the process rather than the end result.
Right.
And so, like, when I talk about I'm a writer
Mm,
and I feel proud of saying that, I feel proud of it not necessarily because of the things I put out and people have seen. I feel
mm.
proud of it because every day I try and have something down in my phone notes, even if it's not good, you know? I'm I'm
Wow.
I'm I'm trying to do that consistently every day.
Right.
And that's why I can call myself a writer because I write literally. Even if it's not that
Mm,
good,
mm-hmm,
I'm committed to the craft and I
Yeah.
think before it was more focused on, yeah, it's such a, I feel like it's, if I could talk to myself then or my younger self, it would be like you're wasting time by focusing things so much on the end result. It's like when people say we make plans and God laughs kind of thing, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I think you're right that the failures are necessary for
Mhm.
growth. I feel like I'm
Mhm.
going on a rant, but
No, I love it.
yeah,
I love everything you're saying.
it's that loss of perspective for me. That was the biggest thing.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking about just how much we don't put enough emphasis on the journey,
Hmm.
and you literally just said it kind of as I was thinking it. The journey doesn't sound. It's not Instagrammable, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. The journey is not Instagrammable. You know, we want to kind of post that we've reached that distinction, or, you know, I'm proud to announce that I'm speaking at XYZ event. And what is it really for? Is it actually because we're proud, or is it because we want to be kind of um, approved, if that makes sense, by others? So that is something definitely to sit with. And I like what you said as well in terms of saying, like, I'm a writer because I write, you know,
Mm,
end of story, period, you know.
mm.
And what I guess what can we do? What can we do to redirect our focus more on the journey? Because I think
Hmm.
if we're saying that we need to learn how to fail quicker,
Yeah, what does that mean? I wanted to ask
what does
that
that
actually.
mean?
What does it mean to
Yes.
fail quicker?
For me, failing quicker means not overanalyzing every single thing before jumping into it and doing it. Um, trying new skills, and actually sometimes it's just the thing that you've been thinking about for absolute years that you haven't done yet. You
Hmm.
know, I can give an example. I've been thinking for a long time to do busking, to busk and sing
Hmm.
on the streets, you know, and just hone in my craft and just, yeah, I mean, I love to sing, so why don't you sing? You know what I mean? And if you make some money on the side, cool.
Yeah.
But if I think about all the things that I value, which is singing, connecting with others, performance, like just having that level of vulnerability through creativity,
Yeah.
I think busking is a beautiful way to do that.
Hmm.
But I've been saying that for a long time and I haven't done it. And why is that? It could be a fear of failure.
Hmm.
It could be and failure being the failure that you feel is attached to you based on what you think other people's opinions will be.
Yeah.
Um, because am I fearful of standing in front of people and singing? No,
Hmm.
I'm not. Am I fearful of how I will be perceived by others who care about me and, you know, are they going to think, oh, she's doing this because she's jobless, for example?
Hmm.
Then yeah, that is something that I'm fearful of, and it encapsulates itself in this term failure. But
Hmm.
if I fail quicker, it's basically me saying, embracing that you might actually not get the result you want from this, and
Hmm.
that's actually okay.
Hmm.
You know, you if you do this thing and you do it quicker, you will learn something from it because that is the journey itself.
Yeah.
And in picking up something from it, you can now move on to the next thing if that is what needs to happen,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and so yeah, I think that's kind of what failing quickly means for me. And also, I guess this topic comes at a fairly relevant time for me as well because I don't know when this will be released, but we are definitely in the month of June. And I literally just posted that, you know, allow me to reintroduce myself, you know, on social media and on LinkedIn. And it's like I took a break from music and all sorts, you know, a couple of years ago. I've been doing little bits here and there, but never really kind of formally reintroduced myself. But I feel like, yes, now is the time to do that. And kind of reintroduce myself still as a singer, but also as a speaker, somebody that wants to speak to others about whatever it might be HR, well being, diversity, just life, right? We talk all the time, and I want to talk to others about these sorts of topics that we talk about on the podcast.
Hmm.
But to do that, like post that reintroduction was so scary for
Hmm.
some reason, you know. And I really had to sit with that. Like, why are you so scared? Like, I was typing and screaming at the same. If you saw me as I was typing, it was crazy because I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, what if people thought that I failed before? I took a break from music. Maybe it was a failure and all these sorts of things. But actually, I think if I were to really sit with myself and understand that, the music journey that you went on, it wasn't a failure. It was the journey. You learned so much in the
Yeah.
journey, you know. And I think where the focus then was sort of getting my music out there, striving for success, doing all these sorts of things to gain a following. I've seen how that can kind of negatively impact my mental health because I'm
Mm.
thinking about the end result, not the journey,
Mm.
And now my focus is more so the journey, and also I want to perform and actually make money from performing. It's not so much on releasing song after song after song because that's tiring,
Yeah.
So, all of that to say, there's a lot of learning that I've done in that
Yeah.
process, So yeah.
And speaking of, focusing, what how do you drown out the noise and, those other voices that can sometimes trickle in and kind of add to that anxiety of like going
Mm.
out there? How do you manage that?
So that's a good question. I'm going to ask you the same thing as well. There was a post that I saw my ex-manager kind of post actually today. And it said, you shouldn't be afraid of failing. You should be afraid of missing out on everything that you dream of because you lack the courage to try. And that is pretty much my mantra, if that makes sense. It's not so much that it's not so much that I'm fearless. I'm really not, as much as I might act like it. It's more so I'm driven by the idea or the very real reality that you might really regret not trying,
Mm.
you know, and that is heavy as heck. For me, I need to try, even if it means like looking embarrassing, even if it means, you know, people talking about me. I'm still in the ring trying. You man are just out here watching me fight in the ring. Yeah, of course you're gonna laugh. Like it's easier to kind of sit from the outside, right? But when you're in it, you know, you can be proud of yourself because you actually did the work,
Mm.
whereas others are sitting down watching you. So I mean, who has the last laugh really? You know. So yeah, for me it's I need to try because if I don't try, that is the regret that I would live with more than anybody
Mm.
saying, "Oh, why did she do that?" you know.
Mm.
Um
I love that. That feels
yeah.
like one of those speeches you hear when like in like American graduations and they always have that big speech. Like that
Yeah.
feels like it could be.
Valedictorian or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, it's giving. Like, yeah.
Yes. What about you?
Um, how do I drown out the noise?
Mm,
Um, it's hard because there is also quite a lot of internal noise, and maybe it's even louder than anything.
that part.
Um, yeah, to be honest. And I think for me, I have to get out of my head. I have to get out of my head
Mm,
and almost be a bit like a kid with it, I think. And I think sometimes getting out
mm.
of my head also means sharing something before it's done or perfect. I'm really blessed
Yes.
enough to have really amazing and supportive mentor. Shout out Danny.
Mm.
And oh, she's great. And
Oh.
I remember like in my sessions, I always like she's also someone who like I don't want to waste her time. Like this she's
Mm.
got important things to do. And
You
so
got things to do.
and so
Yes.
I remember like once like I had a session with her and I
Mm-hmm.
was not prepared. I was tired and
Mm.
it was the first time where I was like, I'm either gonna cancel this last minute or I'm
Mm.
gonna have to show up and just own up and be like, I ain't done none of the things I said I was gonna do.
Yes.
Basically.
Literally.
And I just opted for the latter because I wanted to
Mm.
honor the time that, she'd set aside for me. And
Mm,
I'm actually look back on that and I'm grateful for it because it allowed us to form a more human connection. And I actually
mm,
think that since then, at least in my experience, it's opened up a
mm,
bit more in our mentor to mentee relationship,
mm.
where I think even by my failure of like not doing the things I said I'd do, showing up a hot mess on in our meeting, tired,
Yeah.
um, I think even then she was still able to see, I think, that I care about the things that I'm hoping to achieve.
Mm,
And I think she was also more fully able to appreciate the challenges that I face on the road to achieving them. And
mhm,
I think that that overall just made our interactions more human,
mhm,
and I think it's only been for the better, and I actually feel
mm,
grateful that I was able to do that and that she was also able to hold that space so well for me. And I
mhm.
think if I didn't do that and I was trying to be a perfectionist and it was just like I cancelled it because I didn't want her to see me like that.
Yeah.
Um, don't see me like this.
Yes.
If I was like that, then, actually maybe potentially it would have kept our relationship at a more surface level or,
Mhm,
different things. And I think
mhm,
the another gift of failure is it does humanize us because we're all ultimately human at the end of the
mm,
day. Like
mhm,
no one's got
mhm.
it together. No one's
Literally.
waking up like with all the achievements. And
Absolutely.
that's the thing, again, we don't talk about enough, I think.
Mm,
Um, and yeah, I think from then I just try to, I think for me, it also means like overcoming my own internal monologue of always trying to put forward a front in perfectionism.
mm,
I'm trying to be more, I'm trying to be more human. I feel more okay being like that.
mhm,
And I'm grateful for that because
mm.
it's so exhausting trying to pretend.
It is
Uh,
so exhausting
and it's
and
also really
pointless.
freeing when you realize you don't
Yes.
have to.
Yes. Exactly.
Um, so yeah, that's how I would say I approach that.
I hear that. I mean, I don't have anything else to add, to be honest with you. I think, I just think it's so funny because I think like a lot of us are looking over our or looking at the next person and thinking this is exactly what I need to do to succeed.
Hmm.
When actually all of us kind of need the same thing, as in all of us needs the vulnerability, all of us need more exposure of the journey, all of us need kind of that authentic connection
Hmm.
um that actually does bring us together,
Yeah.
you know. So it's just this idea of keeping up with the Joneses, isn't it? It's like what, like who are they and why, you know?
Hmm.
And I guess I was also thinking about what we were saying earlier on ego death.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
it's probably getting worse. That idea that we have to succeed and not fail is probably, in my opinion, getting worse because of social media.
Hmm.
Of course, there are wonderful things about social media, like that comes with social media, but I think, of course, people say it all the time. The highlight reel is only the highlights, right? Um, but there's not enough kind of conversation around how you got there or how many times you failed, you know, in order to get there. And if we're looking at all the kind of people that have built businesses, like they would have had maybe 10 other businesses, you know,
Yeah.
before they came with this refined, wonderful idea. Like nobody is perfect, you know. No, they're not more special than you are, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Maybe they just had more courage and, of course, different opportunities to kind of make their dream thrive.
Hmm.
Um, but ultimately, maybe we just need to like try the ideas in our head and try get out of our head.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I'll just leave it there. Try the ideas in our head and try and get out of our head, I would say. What do you think?
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
try. I think that's
Just
that's
try,
the,
man.
that's the valedictorian speech. Just try, because I
Just
think it's
try.
true. Like not
Yeah.
enough of us want to try, but just try. Just try.
Mm,
You
mm-hmm.
will, you only have some, like there's that saying, nothing ventured, nothing gained, you know?
Mm,
Even if the venture leads nowhere, you would have
mm,
gained something. So
mm,
yeah, I agree. Just try. And I think try afraid. I feel like try. with lots
Yeah.
of questions.
Yep.
Try
With
not
all the
knowing
questions. Yes.
what the other side's going to be. And that's scary.
Yes.
Like, yeah, it's scary. But there's no cheat sheet, I don't think, out of
Mm-hmm.
that unless you're just going to run from it or run from yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There was a question I was gonna ask and it completely left me. Oh man. Because you were talking about just try. Yes, I guess I was also thinking about emotional resilience. I can't remember if we spoke about this in the last episode, but you know when someone says I tried and I failed or I tried like how long in your opinion must somebody try,
Mm,
before they've decided, you know what, this is not it.
mm.
You know what I
That's
mean?
actually such an important question.
You know.
Um, that's actually a really important question because there's trying, but there's also the reality of where is that actually leading to?
Mhm.
I don't know. I can only speak from personal experience, and I think for me, how I've responded to that is either take a breather, take a break, and come back and see then if it's a matter of timing rather than it not being for you.
Mm. Mm.
Because I've had things where I was like trying different things, and then it was just like, you know, it's not going anywhere. Uh,
Mm.
I feel like it's more of a timing thing.
Right.
And then other times it's like, actually, this is just not it.
Mm.
Um, it's just not it. And I think that's
Mhm.
where I'm definitely someone who I will exhaust literally all options before I quit something. Uh,
Yeah.
but sometimes you have to accept actually, like, am I exerting more energy
Mhm.
on trying to make this work than uh, it actually getting anywhere? And
Yeah.
I think if that's where you're at, that's when you at the minimum you need to pause.
Mhm.
Um,
Mm.
and I think also this is where I was gonna say, because I don't want it to seem like it's all like kind of negatively focused in terms of, you know, it's vulnerable and scary to try
Mm.
things. You know, it's also a beautiful thing to take courage in stepping out.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I think on both things, that's where it is also helpful to like have people who can lift you up. Because I
Mm.
remember when I was like getting nowhere with a lot of things and just feeling like I was hitting wall after wall after wall and being
Mm.
so grateful for like knowing the right person to call who I know was just gonna hype me up. Like,
Mm.
thank God for
Mhm.
friends who will literally speak life over you.
Mm.
And you know, not in a realistic way, in an unrealistic way, but also sometimes you need those friends who are like delusional a little
Delusional.
bit. Like I literally had
Completely
like I
delusional.
remember my friend being like, "I just know you're gonna make it." And also I got
Mm.
really annoyed. I got really pissed off because there was a season where different people were saying like, "Oh, there's some people who I'd worry about, but when it comes to you, Tembe, I'm not worried." And I'm like, "No, I'm
You're
worried.
like, please be worried about
Please,
me.
please actually be worried about me
Be
because
worried.
what you mean you're not worried?"
Yes, you're not worried. Okay,
Yeah,
thanks. Like,
I
I'm struggling
in a
here.
way, like it's
Like,
supposed
what?
to be encouraging, like I'm not worried, but I'm like,
Mm,
whatever faith you think you have in me, please, like, can
don't.
I download it? Because I've got nothing. Like, I don't know where you're getting this from.
Yes.
But I think when you can have people who are just like, nah, like you're fine. Like you're actually fine. Like
Mm,
you are gonna
mm-hmm,
do this.
mm-hmm,
And even if you don't believe it yourself, you
mm-hmm.
do have those moments where you come back to what they said and be like, oh, maybe they had some, maybe I
I
can.
think, okay, maybe they're right.
Yeah, or maybe I can at least try.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that that's important as well to have those
Mm-hmm.
people where when you can't, maybe they can also
Mm.
lift you up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I have nothing to add, but I feel like we can probably wrap up here, in my opinion. Any last words? Any last words? Any advice? I don't want to say advice like we're experts here, but because we're just out here, we're somewhat grown, we're figuring it out. You know, my mum said to me, I said, "Oh, I'm gonna record a somewhat grown episode." She's like, when are you guys gonna be grown?" She keeps on saying, like, "When are you guys gonna be grown?" You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know,
Yeah.
forever young, I guess.
Yeah.
You know. But are there any kind of if there's one thing you want somebody to hear from this podcast episode, what would it be? Also, I'm super conscious that it looks like the sun has gone down on my side, but not your side. What is happening here?
Hackney babes. I don't know what to say. No, I'm joking.
I don't understand. Why do I look like Nepa took light and then you're just there glowing? I feel
I don't
really
know because I even
offended.
turned down my screen brightness because
The
I'm like
heck?
looking
I'm
like a
about to
ghost.
turn it right up. Okay, I didn't know that was the
Oh, that's
trick.
better. Okay, come on, Glow.
I wish I knew that before.
Hello.
Never mind. Anyways, yeah.
Last words. Do you know
Yes.
what? Can I read the poem? That's what I'll leave it with
Yay!
from my side.
Please. Yeah, no, that's it. That's going to be the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I hope you like it because
How can I top a poem, Tembi? Come on.
it's not mine. It's not my poem.
Well, never mind. It doesn't matter. Okay,
Okay, well, I
let's
hope
hear
you
it.
like it too. And I shared this in my Substack, and I'm sharing it here again. And I offer it as a thing to say, may we all move in the spirit of the mountain lion. And this poem is by Ada Limon, and it is called The Mountain Lion.
Okay.
I watched the video clip over and over. Night vision cameras flicking her eyes an unholy green. The way she looked, the 6-foot fence up and down like it was nothing but a speed bump, then cleared the man-made border in one impressive leap. A glance over the shoulder, an annoyance, and as if you could keep me out or keep me in. I don't know what it was that made me press replay and replay. Not fear, though I'd be terrified if I was face to face with her or heard her prowling in the night. It was just that I don't think I've ever made anything look so easy. Never looked behind me and grinned or grimaced because nothing could stop me. I liked the idea of it though. Felt like a dream you could will into being. See a fence? Jump it.
Thanks everyone for listening to Somewhat Grown. What should we cover next? Email us at somewhatgrown@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts. You can also connect with us on socials. On YouTube, search somewhat_grown. On TikTok, find us at somewhat.grown. On Instagram, follow _somewhatgrown. But to follow us personally, find me, Izzy, on at It's Izzy Eze everywhere, and Tembi under at Tembi Rain on Instagram and X. Catch you next time.